Hey guys, welcome back to this brand new YouTube video. I'm going to be showcasing my two-time DLV 19 live twin deck profile. Of course, I'm going to be going over the combos, the replay, why I built the deck, and how I built it, and also just why did I choose it. If you guys like this video, make sure to hit that like and subscribe button as well if you aren't notified. Please do hit that bell, and yeah, let's go straight on into it. So of course, within this deck, I play 3 copies of Kisako and 3 copies of Lola. They basically search out one another, hence their names being live twins. This is what you call a 1-card combo starter. For that reason, play 3 of each. For me, I only had 2 Kisako and 3 Lila at the time, and then I eventually got my 3rd one, and it's still playable either way. If you have them at 2 to 3 for whatever ratio, it still works. As long as you just have them in your deck, that's all that really matters. So ironically, that's all you need for the engine, besides a few other cards, which I'll get into the spell cards. So for my deck build choice, with 1 live twin Sunny Snitch and 1 secret password and 1 live twin channel. Now, the irony here is my first build, I didn't have Sunny Snitch and it still works very effectively. But basically, you go into Secret Password to search out Live Twin Sunny Snitch. Sunny Snitch effect, you add any Lila or Kisako for your deck to your hand that's specifically Live Twin, because it literally says once card's activated, add 1 Live Twin. So, you know, grab whatever one, right? That's really useful for your deck build because you want as much efficiency as possible with it. And of course, sometimes I do search Live Twin Channel with Secret Password, because this lets you add any live twin or evil twin spell trap from your deck to your hand, which is really good. Those are like your essential cards, and the rest of it is just like non-engine tech cards. This is also why I really love this deck, because of the amount of non-engine cards you can run in your deck, which is really useful. So if you guys want, I would highly recommend to do it this way, and of course you guys could change it up your way. I just preferably like mine the way that I built it. So let's go straight into the tech cards that I think were actually useful. The first one is Radiant, the multi-dimensional kaiju. So one thing is that this is a dark monster. I just chose it because it is a dark monster, and that's it. This isn't technically the most optimal kaiju, I feel like. Maybe I could have done something with like less attack. I just chose it because I thought it would be one of the better choices. I don't think it's that bad though. It still works pretty well. Just Credit Plants could use it, which is kind of a bad thing. But other than that though, not terrible. And the reason for this is so you can out the Likers board. So basically you just kaiju whatever XYZ monster they have and you out them. You can out heroes, you can out many other decks. I took and did this with testing where I found that kaiju to be the most efficient in this format, just because like a lot of people want to end on boards that have like negates, right? And because this meta is kind of a board breaker meta, the kaiju is just easily fittable into the deck and it just suits it very well. So huge shout outs to Radiant, the multi-dimensional kaiju, for doing so good. Pretty based. I also play 1 Kyroid. I think 1 Kyroid is not the worst. This is used in many different ways, which I'll explain later. At least for my personal build, this is also just good as a hand trap. And then I also run Warning Point. This is basically a really good card in this format. Like if you're gonna say any card's really good, Warning Point and Kaiju are like your top 2 cards, because a lot of people again want to end on these crazy boards, and usually it's with a Fusion, Synchro, Xyz, or Lake Monster. Now of course, if somebody were to play like a really good out to this card, it'd probably be something like Necroz, just because like obviously they ritual summon, but luckily I didn't run into many of those. In fact, I ran into very few of those decks, so it was unlikely for that to happen. You know, if you do happen to face Necroz, this card doesn't really do much. Again, because I did a bunch of the research and I put a lot of time into knowing and understanding the meta, I found that the Warning Point was actually the most effective card in this format versus if I used some other type of card. 2 Warning Point, really solid. I don't think I would change it. I think overall this was like a very effective card for stopping a lot of decks that I encountered. Again, this just hits, you know, all the top like 5 decks for sure. Obviously the 1 Drowning Me, of course. I again don't really need to explain it too much, but because a lot of cards and decks in this meta are just kind of intended to be made to do some kind of crazy end board and attack, like I don't want to have to face that. So if I just put down a Drowning Mirror Force as a one-of, like nobody really expects it, but it also is just a good board breaker. And like I mentioned, because of the research I did, I found that board breakers are actually really good in this meta, so being able to like wipe the board with just 1 drowning was like insanely useful. If you are gonna play this deck, I highly recommend that you do play drowning, just because again it outs those troublesome end boards, which if you aren't familiar with how you should or shouldn't pick end boards, you should really base it off of the idea of what the current meta is trying to end their boards on and why they're trying to end their boards on a certain type of card. Now, of course, this is personally not a tech card, but some could argue it is, and that would be the Evil Twin Present. Now, this build that I built is hardcore on the control side, and I love the fact that I can swap one of my monsters for one of theirs. This counts as a snatch steal, so what I mean by that is that the effective snatch steal is permanent, so that means when I take control of the monster, it doesn't just go away. So again, I'll explain more as to why I use this, but this card was really useful in this meta. And then the other two were enemy controller and mind control. Again, these are both snatching cards, really useful in this meta. I wouldn't change it. And then also the one Book of Moon and one Cosmic Cyclone. So obviously some people might go hard on back row removal, but it wasn't really necessary, especially against Unchained matchups, because with Unchained you either win or lose. I know it sounds kind of weird to say, but it depends on like what kind of end board Unchained makes. Unchained is really good, but of course, you know, some people are not very good at the deck, so when they have like some kind of end board, it doesn't do much for them. But of course for us, we don't even care, because we're just gonna steal whatever they make anyways for the most part to then use it for our type of end board. So there's that. And then finally, the secret sauce that I have put in this, which is actually like insane, and it goes really crazy in this deck, is Gizmek Okami, the Dreaded Deluge Dragon. Now, nobody ever saw this on their radar, and it does some insane stuff, and I found this when looking through a lot of my favorite cards, and I love doing that. So, you know, always do that if you are gonna ever try to like take some type of cards serious, especially in like deck building process, because, you know, finding cards like these are like really insane and really good for your decks. Because you never know, right? Like, you might find like some card that people would say like, oh, that's kind of garbage, but then they just don't realize that it's actually really good based on the meta call. And for me, playing something like this was insane because first of all, we summoned 2 or more monsters from our extra deck, and this just allows us to special summon this Gizmek Okami from hand, and it's really easy for us to do that. So there's that. So when you do that, you have a 29,500 beater on the board. And then also, on top of that, you can activate the card's effect by paying 1,500 life points to destroy all monsters on the field that were special summoned from the extra deck. And of course, you can only attack with 1 monster this turn, but that doesn't even matter because you're just outing a lot of these troublesome cards that you don't want to have to deal with. So Gizmek Okami is really good for that. And then finally, the last effect is basically if this card in your possession is sent to your graveyard by an opponent's card effect, you can banish 1 monster from your opponent's graveyard and gain life points equal to its attack. And I faced a Mayakashi player, and they had a 3,000 attack in their grave, and you can only imagine how many life points it got. Now, of course, again, this effect won't work if it's banished. It has to be sent to your graveyard, nowhere else. I know it's kind of obvious, but some people don't know that, but just in case, this card goes crazy in this deck. Again, I'm always playing road decks. I think they're fun, but also really strong. A lot of people don't see them as good, but I do. So, but that's the entire main deck. Let's jump in on the side, and then I'll end it off with the skill, and then we'll go into why I chose certain cards and stuff. So, the first obvious thing is 3 Evil Twin Kisako and 2 Evil Twin Lilla. The 2 Evil Twin Lilla and the 3 Evil Twin Kisako are very important. You only need 2 to 3 ratio. More than this is kind of like a brick. But also just unnecessary. A lot of people will tell you like, no, you have to run the full 3, but it's like, it's not even true. I played many games with only 3 to 2, and it works absolutely fine. Especially when I found out that in testing that like a lot of the times you're not making that many of these because you're really not needing to. Most people think that you have to make a lot, but you don't. And I'll explain how to play with some of these so that way you're also playing it more efficiently. If you make the Evil Twin Kisako, you get to draw 1. If you make the Evil Twin Lilla, you get to pop 1. And again, I'll explain how a lot of this works because this deck can be a little bit tricky for people who've never played this. And then of course you play 1 Nightmare Phoenix and Unicorn, so you basically just play like a Nightmare package, but you just exclude the Cerberus. And then you play your 1 Unchained Abomination. This card basically lets you pop 3 cards on the board. It's insane. Highly recommend you only play 1. You only literally need 1. You don't need more. This card is just insane. So the last card in the extra deck This thing's been kind of a pain to figure out. I'm still trying to figure it out. I played Track Black, which is a 2-effect monster Cyberse where it lets you basically draw one card. Really haven't made it. I've played Security Dragon in here because if it's co-linked you get a free compulse out of it. I really haven't made it. I think it's like a rank 2 monster. I'll probably put it on screen somewhere, but I played that too. But yeah, I'm still trying to figure out the last card. I don't want to just throw in another like blue. I just find it to be unnecessary because you really don't need another blue. It's just not needed. So, but yeah, that's the entire side of this whole deck. So let's go straight on into the skill. So the skill I use is the Legend of Heroes. So to basically break it down, if the total link rating of the monsters on your field is 3 or more, increase your life points by 2,000. That's exactly what we play because it's easy to do. Now mind you, it says the total. It's not one monster, it's the total. So that means that if you have 2 or let's say even like 5 somehow link monsters on your board with many different arrows, you could use this effect as long as that the arrows that are on those cards is 3 or more in total, then you can increase your life points by 2,000. Pretty simple, it's really powerful, and it just works. Then the second effect, you basically get to return 4 link monsters from your graveyard to the extra deck and add a Mekk-Knight Crusadia, Avermax from outside your deck to the extra deck. Now, of course, some people might be asking, have you ever made that card? I've had like 3 times I could have easily made it, but I just chose not to because it was unnecessary, and you would just have game anyways because most people would just surrender. Like, most people just surrender when they see the end board because it just goes crazy, but it doesn't guarantee you that you'll have that exact same end board, but most of the time you end on the same board. So, but when you do, most of the time it's just over, so they usually just scoop. Of course, you can only use that part of the skill where you get to return 4 when it's turn 5 and onward, but again, it's not like super crazy important. But of course, the reason why I chose the skill is because obviously it's 2000 life boost, but also that the return 4 link monsters is crazy because it basically acts like your field spell, which I will now explain. So if you don't know, the Live Twin channel basically says that when a monster declares an attack, you contribute a Kisekil or Lila to negate the attack, which also includes either your normal monsters in your deck or your extra deck monsters that are specifically Kisekil or Lila. So that means that if I have a Evil Twin Kisekil on my board, I can choose to send it to my grave, or rather tribute it to my grave to take and negate the attack. That's really cool. Now, the other thing that's really cool about this is if you have no monsters on your board, but you have like, let's say a Lila or Kisekil, you know, your level 2 in the grave, you could choose to shuffle in your deck, but if you have no monsters, you can add it to your hand instead. So this way you can still play the game, and the skill works really well with this because sometimes you just burn through all of your like extra deck anyways to then go ahead and recycle it, and that's why you don't need to play a third. That's why when I say that you don't need to, it's because the skill covers it, but also the field spell also does that too, right? So it's like there's no need to waste your extra deck space on something when you have literally a skill and a card that does it for you anyways. Alright, so why I chose this deck, I wasn't sure what I wanted to play. I just kind of felt like I just didn't know what I wanted to do, but I had to think of a deck that can out the Lycris deck, which I think I did pretty well here, but also that when I was looking through the top decks, I noticed that obviously something like Sky Striker is still really prevalent, and obviously it makes sense too because the deck is very powerful, just like Unchained. And the problem with a lot of the decks that I saw is that I wasn't really liking them, and also I just wasn't feeling them, and I was going through a bunch of cards and I kind of like stumbled upon Live Twins. I was like, you know what, I'll just try to make it work, right? And I did a bunch of research and I did a bunch of testing, and I found that this deck out resource grinds Sky Striker, especially when you combine it with the skill and the field spells. So like when you do that, it just takes and puts you way ahead of the game, and also that this deck has a lot of control over Sky Striker, more than you would actually think, especially when you have something like Drowning Mirror Force and you can just special summon a bunch of monsters. So yeah, it's really good. Sometimes I do obviously lose to Sky Striker, it just happens, right? Like I can face any deck and still lose to it. It's not like this deck is like, you know, tier 0 auto win, right? It is very good and it outs a lot of different decks, especially if you know what you're doing. And then also, like I said, when I was doing the research, I found that Kaiju is just the out to this whole format, especially when people are more focused on trying to do board breaking effects, which of course Effect Veiler wasn't super used, but it was there. It just wasn't as prevalent as stuff like board breakers, and mostly that was just Drowning Mirror Force. So of course the drowning was still a staple, but I felt that like Radiant Kaiju, the Warning Point, and then also IDP. Ice Dragon's Prison is huge. I think that this card is like really solid in the deck. I'm not sure if I mentioned that earlier. I hope I did. If I didn't, sorry. I did use IDP. I still have it here. Ice Dragon's Prison is also another way you can steal monsters. So basically you have 1, 2, 3, 4 ways to steal opponent's monsters. So yeah, this deck goes crazy with its control. So now, of course, as you can tell, my tech choices are like kind of limited, but kind of wide variety too. And I think it works pretty well. And I've noticed that with this deck, people are playing it incorrectly because they've just wanted to like link summon as many times as possible. Well, like that is your goal, but like at the same time, you want to be able to use your opponent's monsters as resources. So that way it both gets rid of monsters on the board, but also allows you to swing for game, which is exactly why when you're going up against a matchup with like Unchained, you could just take and snatch their monsters and then just use it as material anyways. And then yeah, that's basically the entire deck. I mean, it's a nuts kind of deck, right? Like you just play the deck and it adds a lot of cards. So now again, the only issue which I will announce right now about this deck is that it dies to Effect Veiler. We don't have sprites in here. It'd be awesome if we did, because I would totally play them. I'm totally not a simp for sprites, but yeah, you would have your like live twin monsters and you'd be able to special summon your sprite monsters because they're level 2, but we don't have it, so we're kind of stuck with these for now. But it's still a very strong deck. It's just that for this particular build, I built it for the KC Cup and it just goes nuts. So let's go straight on into how to play the deck. All right, so we're gonna go face this NPC for now, just so I can show you guys how to do this. So let's go into it. I will say this deck wants to go first rather than second most of the time, and the reason is because if your opponent has Effect Veiler, you could still set a back row to stop them most of the time, but you know. So right now this hand looks bad, right, to some people, but this isn't really bad. In fact, we have our starter combo, which is the Sunny Snitch, so we're gonna go ahead and activate it. And once it's activated, we get the effect to add a live twin monster from deck to hand. So we're gonna go ahead and click yes, add Lilla. We'll do Lilla effect on summon to special summon Yugioh from deck. There we go. Now, if you have a Yugioh in your hand, never summon it from your hand unless if it's the last monster in your entire deck. And what I mean by this is like if you literally have no Yugioh in your deck and the only option is to summon from hand, then summon it from hand. This is so that way it gives a kind of like psychological warfare with your opponent where it says like, my hand is nuts and you don't know it. And they might think that you have a hand trap in your hand, when in reality it's like a back row or a monster effect on board. So definitely do that. But also it's because we want to deck thin as much as possible. So that way we can get to more non-engine cards, like tech cards, or maybe even just engine cards in general, so that way we can continue playing the game. So right now I have light blue, normal summon, special summon, light pink. So we're gonna go ahead and make the pink first, the dark pink, as an evil twin Yugioh by using Ghost to his link material. We're gonna do Yugioh effect, evil twin Yugioh effect to summon Lilla. And mind you, it could summon any type of Lilla, so if you have the light blue engrave or the dark blue, you know, you can summon it that way. So we're gonna go ahead and go into dark blue. Go ahead and activate dark blue's effect, summon Yugioh from grave, light or dark. So we're gonna go ahead and summon dark. On summon, dark effect to draw 1, and there we go. So basically, if you want the opposite effect to pop, you would make the blue first, then pink. It's really just initially what you start off with your extra deck, rather than your 2 cards. It sounds kind of weird, but yeah, trust me on this one. So I'm gonna go ahead and activate the skill to gain 2,000 light points, because again, the link rating of the monsters on the field is 3 or more, so if we count, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, so that surpasses number 3, at least if I did my math correctly, I don't know. We're gonna activate that, okay, gain 2,000. Now, if I'm facing Blue Eyes White Dragon, I don't link these off into a pink, and the reason is because if they have Successor Soul, they're just gonna get rid of the monster on the board anyways, and you're not gonna have a good end board, right? So What I typically do is I try to set up a board where I can like kind of counteract what my opponent's doing, right? So if I know that I'm not facing Blue Eyes White Dragon, I'm not going to set certain cards versus others. So like, for example, my opponent is playing the Birds deck, right? The Lycris. I definitely want to set Book of Moon because this is going to be really essential. And then I'm going to set Warning Point. These are two cards that I will hit the Bird matchup easily with. Now, of course, if this is the Bird matchup, I definitely want to link these two off, because there's not much they can do to remove this monster, but that's about it. But of course, if you're going into a matchup where your opponent is playing Lycris, they do have DD Crow because it is searchable. Now, if they were smart, they would save the DD Crow on the effect to bring back a monster, which would be where they would banish the dark blue monster. But, you know, we're just gonna go in and swing. Of course, we don't out this, that's fine. Pass turn, it goes back to him, whatever, right? And again, if you guys like this video and you find it to be helpful, please let me know. I'm trying my best to make this video as good as I can. And of course, every time they summon, they take damage and we gain light points, right? But the only way this works is while we control an Evil Twin monster. So the Evil Twins are from the extra deck, keep that in mind. So if you don't have it, the burn and gain life point effect will not work. Now, in this case, we want to pop this monster, because we don't really care about it too much here, so we're just going to go ahead and activate the effect to bring back a dark blue from grave. Dark blue effect on summon to pop. And mind you, we can pop anything on the board, right? So if I look at this, you can target one card on the field and destroy it, right? So you can destroy your own cards if you want to. Go ahead and pop the monster, and they just pass over to us. Of course, in my position, because they don't have much, and let's just assume they don't have Effect Veiler, we're just going to go ahead and link the blue and pink off for a dark blue here, because I want more card advantage, right? I'm going to go ahead and activate this. There we go, we already have a monster, nice. Now, if your hand is insanely broken with this, which you can do, you want to link off the dark blue and the light blue here for a unicorn. And you might think I'm a little crazy here, check it. So we're going to take these two cards. I want to make sure they're co-linked, as in the arrows connect. And because unicorn is left, right, and down, we're going to put it in the middle. So as you can see, the co-link has happened because you have two yellow indicators right there. So we're going to go ahead and activate unicorn effect. Now, because I don't really care, I mean, we have game for sure here, right? And we know that our opponent doesn't play much back row here. We're going to send the Cyclone, and we're going to return our own Book of Moon to the deck to draw one. Now we can use the effect of Keys to Kill, which you could do on the same turn you just spun that, but I just chose not to. Bring this back, just like that. We could choose to pop our own card if we wanted to, but we're not going to. So make sure that if it's summoned, you don't click confirm if you don't want to pop something. Just keep that in mind. As you can see, we have a really crazy board as is, and we just drew the Book of Moon anyways, right? So this is really useful because if, let's say, you don't want a back row card that you might have wanted to change out for something else, you can literally search for something else, which is the useful part about Unicorn, but also that you can take and shuffle back one of their like extra deck monsters or like monsters on the board. So I'm gonna go ahead and place the IDP because maybe I want that instead, and then we just swing in for game. The only time I make the Unchained monster is if my opponent just has like just this annoying like deck where it just wants to like stall for game, right? Then I would definitely make it. Or that their board is really hard to out as it is, and I need a way to just destroy stuff. You know, if they end up kaijuing me, it's like, well, whatever, right? Because we can still make a bunch of plays. So that's how you basically play this game in terms of the deck itself. And yeah, I hope this was useful. I did showcase you guys the pretty good effectiveness of this deck, I would assume. Now, I don't talk about the effects of Kisako and Lilla because most of the time you don't care too much, but their effects basically for Lilla is you just have your opponent lose 500 light points every time they want to attack. Kisako, you gain 500 for every time they attack. It doesn't really matter, it's kind of just whatever, right? It's like just a little bit of like a sprinkled bonus on top of that. Yeah, let's go straight into the replay. I'll go ahead and commentate over it and explain what I did right, what I did wrong, my whole thought process on that, so let's go into it. Alright, so here we are. I'm on a 12 win streak with 5 twins. I'm against heroes. You know, this is the KC. We're doing great out here, you know what I'm saying? So our hand going turn 1, not bad, actually. So one thing I've noticed is that when players face me and I use this deck, is that they always want to pop the channel, but they don't care about the back row, which is the funniest thing. So since I know this is hero, obviously I'm definitely going to set the warning point, also the Book of Moon. This could come in handy. It could also be used as bait. It's kind of iffy, but yeah, we're going to set all 3. And when I did set this, I was thinking about the order of which I place it, because I've noticed with this game as well, the meta for popping back row is always the middle. Very rarely do people pop the left or right, always just for some reason the middle card. So I did take a little bit to figure out where I wanted to put these, just because I know that my opponent, if they do play cards that pop stuff, they're going to pop like the middle card. And also going into this match, I kind of know that with Eternal Bond that my opponent's probably playing 2 Kyroid, so you know, let's go see what happens. So they make Yugioh here. Of course, if you don't know, you don't ever want to Effect Veiler the first, second monster, right? Because the skill just sends it. You just be wasting cards, so don't activate anything. So flip this over finally. You can activate the effect to add Super Polymerization, and they just pass, right? And the reason that they're going to pass is either 1, they have a bricky hand as it is. I'm not sure why they didn't set fully, but they didn't. But 2 is that this doesn't really do anything on attack declaration, and they don't know what my back row is. I could have a Drowning, I could have a Mirror Force, I could just have a Book of Moon, right? Like, they don't really know. And the only reason you would want to attack anyways is if I had a monster, because it will take and inflict damage equal to that monster's attack your opponent controls, and also destroying my monster, right? And because I have no monster, there's no point in attacking, so I'm going to take and draw a top deck, go into Keys to Kill, which I do the effect on summon, special summon from deck. Go ahead and go into Dark Pink. This will take and activate to bring the light blue from Grave. Go ahead and link those 2 off for Dark Blue. Again, I want as much draw power as I can get here, so I draw when I summon the Evil Twin Keys to Kill, and now I activate my skill, and we also have the Gizmek Okami. So this was a funny little mistake there. I really shouldn't have done this. Enemy controller, I completely misplayed on. Shouldn't have done it. I was trying to, so it was a literal misclick. I meant to swap control the monsters, and as you can imagine, I totally didn't mess that up. So yeah, in hindsight, I probably shouldn't even activated it in general, but whatever. I learned though. I definitely learned. We're gonna shuffle that back and pass. Now, of course, quick tip here, because I have pink and because I have blue, the dark ones, this card can only summon the light blue Lila from Grave or the dark blue. So I really don't need the light pink in the Grave anymore. So if you have dark blue on the field and you have, you know, your stuff, you want to make sure you shuffle the opposite rather than that, because it can't summon itself essentially, right? Like, it can only summon the opposite of itself, if that makes sense. Opponent draws, goes Neospace Connector. We definitely want to negate this, just being able to let them get into 2 cards that they possibly might need, which is obviously the, you know, Elemental Hero Neos in your grave and special summon it, or of course, Neospatian. So we're gonna just negate this, and of course it comes directly from the deck and defense. They have Neos Fusion. I do the effect to bring back. I'm gonna go ahead and activate its effect. And of course, I want to force this out because this protects it from being destroyed, as you can just see. So forcing out the protection is very useful. So they're gonna switch. We're going to go ahead and activate Channel to negate. We're going to go ahead and Book of Moon the opposite card, remember, because this has not attacked yet, this has. So with this effect, we basically get to negate that attack. So we're going to do that by tributing our 1 card. And also because we can activate the Lilla that we have on our board to bring back the monster anyways, so we're fine. Now again, I misclicked. I was very tired when I was playing, so I do apologize if it's not the best quality replay, but it happens. So yeah, we're gonna activate Lilla on board to bring back the other one. Link the two off to this. Summon back the other to pop, and because it's face down, pop it, so not too bad. But instead I choose to pop this, because we're going to summon that, go into a Link 3. Now I'm going to take and shuffle back the monster on the board. Instead of the Gizmek Okami, we go into Lilla here, activate the skill to shuffle 4 Link monsters, and swing in with 1,100 to stay the Kyroid, protecting themselves. And of course, if I had another monster on board to attack, they would take and shuffle that, or well, not shuffle, but they would send the Kyroid that is currently in the grave to the Banish Zone so that they can protect themselves from yet another attack. So of course they bring out the Gluer again. They do the Stratos effect to pop, which it could also do, if you guys didn't know, which is they can either add or destroy, so pretty cool effect. Take a bit of burn damage, take 1,900, take 1,800. Of course we have Mind Control, but of course they have Super Poly for game. Pretty smart play there, which is why they held on to it for so long. And yeah, they ended up just making a Sunrise, swing for game. Of course our one back row doesn't do anything because we don't have a Kisa kill or Lilla, but you know, hey, that's just how it works. So if you guys enjoyed this video, again, leave a like, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you guys can stay notified as to when I drop the next video. And yeah, hopefully you guys learned the combos and also why and how I built it. And I'll see you guys next time, the next deck profile video. Take care.